I just began to write the story. What exactly happened? And I would write the details down. Went to seminary, and then I began to lay the groundwork. This is what God says. Where is my hope in the midst of all of this? And so that's how the book came about. What I don't do in the book is I tell you how to be. I do not do that. I tell you how I walked it out. I give you some healthy guidelines of grieving. And whether it's a divorce, that's a death, and it needs to be mourned because life did not turn out like you thought. You thought you would grow old, and maybe you're not even with them. They've walked away against what you wanted, what your desire was. Loss of a career, loss of a home, all those things need to be mourned. And as I was writing the book, I felt like God said to me, this is not just about a physical death. This is about your death, the death of dreams. And you know what? That's all of us. That's all of us. When life throws us a curveball, it doesn't look like we thought it would. And then suddenly we need to know where to go and get hope, and not just, I need you to rub my ego. No, I need the Word of God. And that is what I feel like from cover to cover. I've given you hope, and I give it to you the way He gave it to me. Just nothing but the Word,
Well, and as you talk about loss, and let's generalize it, obviously you have experienced loss in your life, and you talked about what God took you through in the midst of it. Some general principles when we look at loss, something you said, I wanted you to elaborate just a bit. When you talk about mourning the loss of, and fill in the blank here, how is that done? Does that mean that we become despondent for a period of time until it all works out? Does it mean we kind of live in a state of, everything's going to be okay, almost a state of denial? I don't think that's it.
Right.
Definitely that's not it. But so what are some elements of that?
Well, there's a process. There's a process of mourning and grieving. And what does that look like? And denial is one of the very first ones that we walk through. Anger is very, very much evident. For me, I went into complete seclusion. My husband was the opposite. He walked through anger. And so all of those have to be walked out in a healthy way. Yes, and what does that mean? Giving yourself time to grieve. We have to. I minister to a lot of people that they just say, you know what, I come home, my husband's gone. I didn't see it coming. And that has to be mourned out as a death. That is not, your heart is not going to be healed overnight. 6 months, it may take 2 years before you really feel like, okay, God, I feel you healing my heart. But I assure you, He is healing it every single day. Every step of the way, He's right there. And that is what I found. Regardless of what that loss is, He's closer than you can even imagine. And He promises, I'll never leave you.
So when someone encounters loss, let's take one of these emotions, anger.
Yes.
I think that's probably something that you would find is rather common. People are angry at, circumstances. Maybe if their spouse is left, they're angry at their spouse. People are angry at God.
Yes.
In the grief process, you mentioned that could be or is an element that needs to be worked out biblically.
Yes.
So how does one deal with the anger he or she is feeling in the aftermath of a loss?
I think that is a great question. As a matter of fact, the loss of a child, the divorce rate is in the 90 percentile for divorces. And what I have, over the years of study and what I have found, and I believe this can be in any type of loss, is that if you suppress that anger, it will come out in another way. It may come out in bitterness. It could come out in some sort of addictive vice, but that anger is going to come out, and typically you are hurting yourselves on the inside if you try to suppress it. My husband was very angry at himself. He's a veterinarian. He saves creatures all day, and he wasn't home. He couldn't do anything to help our son that day. And so for him, that was his anger. I did not have anger, but I know that really well because I watched my husband walk that out looking at himself. He didn't lash out at anyone, but that's very common. And so you have to know when people are grieving that their emotions are very raw, and we can't put a Band-Aid on that. We have to extend grace and allow that anger to be released.